Hey everyone, thanks for joining. This is our fourth video as we build this plugin from scratch. It's going to evolve into something great. So let's go back to our code here. All right. So the last thing we did was we instantiated the tracing service. We'll use that later, as you'll see. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to obtain the execution context from the service provider. Now, before I write the syntax for obtaining that context, I want you to understand what that actually means. And essentially, what it is when you register your plugin, we're going to register our plugin against the contact record because the contact record is the one that has the field that we're going to have as an attribute filter. That attribute filter is going to trigger our plugin, right? Okay. Well, as soon as that event happens, then we have what is called execution context. And so, execution context in this case comes from the contact record, right? Because we registered our plugin against the contact record. So, I just want to be clear that right now we're instantiating a generic vanilla version of the execution context, but in reality, it's going to be used for a very specific use case of the contact entity that we'll register this plugin against. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and instantiate that. So what you want to do is it's iPlugin execution context, and there I like to use context as my variable name, and then I will say iPlugin execution context, and then service provider get service type of, and then in the type of, I want iPlugin execution context, close it out. So what we have here is iPlugin execution context. We're storing that in a variable called context. And then right here, we're calling the service provider getting a service type of iPlugin execution context. And that's all we're doing. Nothing particularly special. But this is critical because if we don't do this, then our plugin has no conception of context. So it can't understand which entity it's connected to. We can't really do very much, if at all. So in the next video, I'll show you how we can continue and start dealing with input parameters and how those input parameters in a collection fall into place as part of our code. Thank you so much for your time.